that. Okay, that's changing, of course. The second thing that, and probably worse epistemological shock, was the fact that I learned, and this is actually during, but also more so after my book came out, I recognized that there was and has been, always has been, a very organized group. Yeah. And yeah. And I don't know what to say other than that I'm not going to write about them. I don't know quite. I was shown a lot of stuff and I corroborated some of it enough to the point that it made me nauseous. All right. And you know, what world do I live in when it's orchestrated by people I don't even know or didn't even know existed? And if I tell people this, they're going to think I'm crazy and I will be labeled a conspiracy theorist. And, right. You know, this happened. So, I just stick with, you know, just what I publish and everything like that. I basically just stick to my discipline and the strategies within my discipline. And this other one was too big for me to comprehend. In the sense that not too big for me to comprehend intellectually, too big emotionally. I didn't really want, you know, it's like, now that you have the knowledge, what do you do with it? Well, I don't know.
Well, it's both and.
Yes.
It's like, yes, there were psyops that happened. And yes, there is a phenomenon that exists. And so I guess that is the hardest thing to convey, is that people want either or. You know, they want to either there's nothing and we're being fooled and, you know, bad on you, government, or yeah, whoa, it's really, the space people are here and they're going to save us. What if, I mean, it's way more complicated than that.
And what if, per yours and Jacques Vallée's work, where you can compare past, you know, St. Francis of Assisi or the ecstasy of St. Teresa feel like modern alien abduction experiences, and or Jacques Vallée in Passport to Magonia would say, you know, in Celtic medieval Ireland, you might see a leprechaun or a fairy, and now you're seeing an alien. What if it is both? Because I've never seen a document leaked from the government that says we are going to wholesale fabricate UFOs. Like, that never exists. What you do see a lot of is Walter B. Smith, the director of the CIA in 1953, saying we're going to play up the phenomenon for psychological warfare purposes in the Cold War.
That's right.
So you're using an existing underlying phenomenon for your own purposes.
That's right.
And so the modern space alien stuff, that might be the smoke screen we're seeing. We're just seeing the veil, and we're seeing these sort of low-level memes or motifs, and yet in a weird way, this has been going on, transcending space-time. This has been going on across history in these really profound ways, and that's not a psyop. That is so real.
Yes.
And the experiences people have are real.
Totally real.
Or could it be manipulated purposely by people who have the technology to simulate UFO sightings? And people say, well, of course not. Who would do a thing like that?
Another one we put on a UFO and was able to report like he had been abducted. You know, in this case where he had not been, but UFO sightings were, you know, popular at the time, particularly abduction scenarios. So that was one where, again, changing history could cause a new scenario and be able to describe the situation just as if it were real.
Here we have a phenomenon that began, we think, in the 1950s. It probably began earlier. But, you know, a lot of the cases started emerging in the late 1950s and 1960s of cattle mutilations all the way through the western part of the United States and also up in Canada, and actually in other countries too. So here we have a phenomenon that's quote-unquote genuine. But at the same time, we're finding these occasional cases where it's pretty obvious that somebody is using sedatives, is using hypodermic needles, and is using medical equipment to exsanguinate animals. So we postulated that there were two things going on simultaneously that were causing a lot of confusion. You've got, number one, a quote-unquote genuine phenomenon, and number two, you've got this medical surveillance project that is being carried out knowing that, you know, most veterinarians will not touch a mutilated animal because the quote-unquote aliens are associated with mutilated animals. So these small covert surveillance programs that are being carried out are being carried out knowing that the overall umbrella of cattle mutilations is protecting the perpetrators from being caught. So, I mean, that's the bidirectional mimicry. You've got the quote-unquote real phenomenon. You've got a small program that's hiding underneath the phenomenon, and then you've got the phenomenon that's actually mimicking, you know, the government surveillance program.
The Wilson-Davis menu, as you know, has been a bone of contention for a while. There have been people who said it was false, it wasn't true. There were others who claimed it was 100% true. In private conversations I've had, I've gotten this impression that the Wilson-Davis memos refer to a real thing, but that the memos might have been faked. Like it was engineered to reveal the Wilson-Davis conversations and contacts, and it was not disinformation, because that would mean the information was false. It was just a kind of sleight of hand, like they were dumping a document, like the magic files, the Majestic 12 files.
Right.
Same reaction. People said, no, the MJ12 files, they're false documents, but they refer to a real thing. You know, and the Wilson-Davis memo, initially, that's what I heard. The memo was fake, but the Wilson-Davis thing was real. You know, the contacts were real. So that's the impression that I got, that there's somebody out there creating documents like the MJ12 documents. And, you know, I was fooled. I spent a lot of time at the National Archives researching a lot of strange stuff. And I've seen a lot of, you know, old documents, and those MJ12 documents look pretty real to me. Somebody went to a lot of trouble to fake those if they were really faked, and for no reason, you know, not for financial gain, obviously. They just went and faked them and then, you know, dumped them. And it's like, who would do this? What's the purpose of this? Why create this idea? Unless you're trying to tell us something, unless it's, you know, unless there's a greater operation involved, some sort of, you know, a mind control operation or something. Why go to all that trouble, you know? But there's been a lot of very learned, you know, analysis of the document saying it must be false. Some learned analysis saying, yeah, but not necessarily. And was there a Majestic 12? I don't know. But those people existed, and some of the connections were there, and we could kind of come around to thinking maybe there was something like it, but not necessarily the way the documents portrayed it.
Another breadcrumb, right?
Right. There are many people who have super chatted. Don't worry, I'm going to get to them. I have a follow-up question to what you just said, which is there are wolves that are watching you like a hawk. Is there another reason outside of national security that they don't want you to disclose what you may disclose, or they're worried you may?
Yeah, I mean,
what is their worry outside of that?
There have been, forbidden truths, we can call them, if you will. There have been forbidden truths in the history of not just our country, but many countries. Truths that could upset a balance that's been around for a long time. Let me give you case in point. Let's say there were some people that were doing their job by running a UFO program in the past, but because certain things happened, presidents were no longer briefed, people in Congress were no longer briefed who should have been, and now they're running an operation that's considered rogue, but it's still an...
You know, so this is more than just financial support. This is threats that they make to people, to their families. You know, this is a criminal syndicate that is functioning here to try to capture and keep secret this information. Now, the people who are the primary people moving to try to get some public revelation of this information come from within the Defense Department. They're honest, patriotic military people and intelligence people
who are fed up with this type of criminal self-dealing that these aerospace industries are engaged in. And what they're doing is they're bribing, not only they're hiring the people, offering them hundreds of thousands of dollars as consultants to come over and help support their ability to keep this secret. That they see this as a threat to their monopoly power on the planet. And that's why they're willing to go to such extremes of threatening the lives of people, destroying their political careers, destroying their family lives, by having people branded as insane who simply try to, present the information to legitimate authorities about an encounter that they've had with such a UFO. And they send in secret military people to threaten them and their families. This is a criminal syndicate. This is a federal criminal racketeering organization that we're dealing with here. It's a syndicate that's made up of these aerospace industries and some of the politicians whom they've bribed. And you're looking right straight at them right now with Mike Turner and Mike Rogers and now Johnson and Mitch McConnell is doing their bidding right now.
Can you just quickly explain what you mean by that?
Yes, well, the bidirectional mimicry hypothesis emerged from but sort of several different investigations that we were doing. And number one was an attempt to interview and gain oral history from the so-called Men in Black, which is the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, which is the arm of the Air Force, United States Air Force, that is dedicated to counterintelligence and to, creating deception about programs to hide the advanced technology programs that are under the wing of the United States Air Force. So we were very fortunate to be able to have a long conversation with the retired head of the Air Force Office of Special Investigations, a guy called Colonel Barry Hennessy, and he told us that it was routine in the 1970s, 1980s, 1960s that the UFO phenomenon would be used as a cover for special access programs. So in other words, if a top secret prototype crashed in northern New Mexico in the 1980s, there would be a tremendous amount of chatter about a UFO crash in northern New Mexico, and that would be aided and abetted by AFOSI. So that level of, really what's happening here is that the United States Air Force would be mimicking the UFO phenomenon with their ability to cover it up. So that's one part of the mimicry.
And so I interviewed one is in the book, and that's my colleague who's now retired, but she's a philosopher, and her specialty was Charles Peirce, which is this philosopher whose philosophy of language. And so she was really interesting because her father worked for what she calls the unacknowledged space program. And she used to call it this secret space program. And this was before I even knew about UFOs or even thought about UFOs. And I thought it was really strange that she would tell me that, like her father was part of this secret space program. Like, isn't that something like crazy and not real? And so I interviewed her about it. And there is this unacknowledged portion of the space program, and her father was a part of it. And she had a very strange childhood. And I met a lot of people who were part of this. And she's the one that I could actually talk about because she's willing to talk about it, and her father's been dead for many, many, many years. And so, but there are people who I met who are part of this unacknowledged part of the space industry. And I'm not going to talk about them. They wouldn't be in my book. But so I could tell the story, but I told it through her.
And I think the NSA itself, I think it came out, they insert them, they have people on the payroll who pretend to be normal, genuine people, except they're not. They may have 10 different persona that they'll go around and just trash talk in various communities that they want to disrupt. Shit, the FBI was doing this with COINTELPRO back in the 1960s. You'd have people going in and infiltrating groups. This is an old game. It's nothing new. So that exists. So when you're talking about a community that is at war with itself, and that is absolutely true, there's a lot of factors involved. It's unfortunate. I don't know what to do for myself other than I try to avoid the fights.
Ryan, you will be a person I'm talking to here. There will be what I've observed, okay, in doing this and concentrating on some of the misinformation and the information management aspect of it. You could be approached and be made flattered, be made to feel like you're super amazing and special, and you should be like a star. And, you know, we can do this for you, but it's a trap, because once you do that, you've been set up to fall. And there have been many, many, many people in the field. We know about Mirage Men and Benowitz and what happened to him. You know, he was a person who was vulnerable, you know, and, you know, stuff was said to him by misinformation agents and things like that. Seriously, I mean, this happens in this field, and this is
another puzzle we'd love to have cleared up is an understanding of the role of aerospace companies as holders of potentially basic scientific knowledge not shared with the academic world. Is it possible? It seems very wrong to me.
Maybe wrong, but it's true.
It is true. You believe it's true?
Yeah, I know it's true.
You know that there's physics knowledge held by aerospace companies that is not
There
known?
certainly is materials knowledge.
Materials, well, okay, materials.
I'd also like to speak on the issue that some members have stonewalled our efforts to get transparency, and this is also unacceptable. No one member is above another, and the American people deserve to know as much about the existence in this universe as possible. They certainly have a right to know about whether or not if their safety is threatened, and most especially when it comes to our men and women defending us in the skies. This is a simple answer. Stop barring us from the truth.
Another breadcrumb, right?
Right.
Something of a nature that, well, I better not say much more. If full human capabilities were known to us right now, it is not something that we need to fear. And I just don't believe it. Maybe I'm influenced by my Catholic faith, I don't know, but I'm optimistic. I think everything heads toward good.